Hey everybody, it's that time again. It's time for Diary of a Physicist Farmgal. My name is Deborah and I live here on my family farm in the foothills of the Arkansas Ozarks, where I like to do all the crafts. I knit, I crochet, I sew, I quilt, I make baskets, I make jewelry. I love needlework, which is a long forgotten love that I'm rediscovering, and I'll try any craft once and twice if I like it. I am also a university professor where I teach classes on physics, to physics majors, to pre-med and pre-PT and pre-nursing majors, and I teach general education majors as well. And I am also a docent for our planetarium, and I do outreach activities, particularly about minorities in STEM, although that is a rapidly changing environment right now, as most of y'all know, because of what's going on in the world with the COVID-19 pandemic. I am also a farmer. I'm a third generation family farmer living here on this land where my family has lived for over a century. I have 170 acres where I raise grass-fed beef cattle. I raise horses. I have a flock of heritage poultry. I have show quality rabbits, and I am a retirement home for some miniature horses, miniature donkeys, a miniature mule named Pumpkin, who definitely thinks she rules the roost, and Princess Penny, the potbelly pig, protector of the poultry. And as you can tell from my sweet little furry co-host Willie here, I am fur kid mom to 13 dogs, 8 indoor cats, and an undetermined number of outside barn cats. So if any or of all of that sounds interesting to you, why don't you come on along and join me for Diary of a Physicist Farmgal. Okay, if you're looking for us on social media, my farm Facebook page is the same as my YouTube channel name. It's Buckthorn Farms, and I post the goings on here on the farm. I share articles about homesteading and farm life and things of that nature, and occasionally I write some pieces on there about farm life. And also you can find me on Instagram and on Ravelry as Doc Firewoman, where you can also join a Ravelry group for the podcast Diary of a Physicist Farmgal, where I talk about our make-alongs and giveaways and things like that. Plus chit chat. There's a lot of cool make-alongs going on right now, and we'll cover those in just a minute. And you can also find me on Twitter as Doc Firewoman, but that is where I tend to vent most of my malcontentedness about the world we live in with politics, etc. And I am a fairly socially liberal Democrat, so if that sort of thing gives you indigestion or heartburn, perhaps you don't need to follow me on there. Oh, so we live in a very unusual world. As the Duran Duran song Ordinary World says, where is the life that I recognize? We are living in love in a time of COVID-19. And I am not being jolly because I am not taking this seriously. Humor is how I deal with scary situations. I am taking this very seriously right now. My university has converted to fully online, and I'll talk more about that in the science segment. We are social distancing now. We have canceled riding lessons at the barn. Anyway, so, but we are not alone in this. We are a community together, and today's Final Thoughts reading has to do with that. So I am going to start a thread on my Ravelry group called Coping with COVID-19. And it is going to be a place where we can share information about things that uplift us during this time. I am very grateful that we have online connectivity now where we can talk to each other either on Zoom or on Google Meet or FaceTime or talk on the phone or whatever, because community is how we are going to survive this. So there are some things that I am aware of that I wanted to share with you, and maybe we can have on that thread, y'all can share other things that you find uplifting and that have provided you some support during this unusual time in our world's history, and times when people who tend to be a little bit introverted and isolated are even more isolated, and that's not always necessarily a good thing. Or funny pictures or whatever, the funny ones that I see going around are about, y'all thought I was funny for hoarding craft supplies. Who's laughing now? So just things to help us cope with this. No fear mongering, no sharing stories about this and that, scary statistics. Let's just put things on there that uplift each other, because I know that I've had to really curtail my social media use lately, particularly Facebook, because things on there just get crazy so fast. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about coronaviruses in general, because there is some misunderstanding about that in the science segment. But the two things that I want to share with you are there is the hashtag #BeWellAndStitch on Instagram, and you can also just Google Be Well and Stitch. There are a lot of stitching designers, cross-stitching designers that are sharing free patterns at this time. I know that Raging Stitches has done that. I know Subversive Cross Stitch has done that. There's a bunch of different cross stitch designers, and I'm not as familiar with them as I am some of the knitting designers, simply because I've been out of it for so long. But Bendy Stitches, I know, has shared a free pattern, and you can go download those. Sometimes they'll post them as just pictures, and you have to screenshot the photographs to have the chart and the thread. And sometimes they'll have a link to a blog or something like that. So you just kind of have to be flexible. I think it's just wonderful that they're willing to do that for all of us right now. So check out that hashtag. The other thing, you don't have to have a Twitter account to follow this, but I do have a Twitter account. If you are not following the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum Twitter, it is so worth it. They have one of their security guards named Tim, who is currently running the Twitter account, and it is just the most wonderful, funny thing to read. Now, don't read the comments, because people are still being jerk faces out there, but just read his tweets. They are so worth the time. So those are the two that I'm going to tell you about. There are lots and lots of others that I'm sure that are out there. I try to share things that I think that are worth seeing. So I'm going to start that thread on my Ravelry group, just for a place for us to go and find things that will buoy our souls. Okay, buoy our souls, not boy, buoy our souls during this somewhat challenging time. So having said that, let's just quickly talk about the make-alongs that are going on right now. Just today, because I'm a little bit behind because of everything that's had to happen at my university about posting the March Science Sprinkle. The March Science Sprinkle is now up. I have drawn prizes for the February one. I also drew prizes for the first 2 months of How Do You Eat an Elephant. So go ahead and start the next chattering session. It's the same thread. I'm just putting a marker in there so I know where I cut off at. That elephant thread has been really popular. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time is our first make-along. It is big projects or projects that we have just been stalled out on that we are working on trying to finish. So every 2 months we declare our elephant. Okay, every 2 months we declare our elephant project, and we commit to trying to work on it every single day. My current elephant is the same one that I was working on, which is my marine life blanket. I am now sizing all the blocks to the same size and putting the joining rows on them, and I'm going to be joining them soon into one big top, so I'm excited about that. So just go check that thread out and try to find some support there. It's been a fun thing to watch what everybody's working on and listening to each other get support. Then we also have the Practical Magic MAL. Practical Magic is where we're making things that are non-apparel items. So rugs and pot holders and baskets and clocks and whatever that has a practical use that is not an apparel item. So hats, scarves, things like that don't count. So something that is a practical use item. And it's a great way to stash bust. I know Carrie Ann's really been working that use it or lose it bowl of hers, stash busting, and she's made some really cool and interesting projects. We then have the Kit or Get Her Done. Kit or Get Her Done is for kits that we have purchased. Things that are in kit form, whether it's shawl kits put together somewhere. Someone has already picked the things out and put them together for you. So shawl kits, sock sets, cross-stitch kits, any kind of crafting kit is welcome in there. So just go check that out. Then we have the string along. String along is where we're using string of some kind, whether it's floss or thread of some kind to make doilies or decorations or to cross stitch or to add accents or to strengthen sock toes or whatever. Bust a Move Stash Down. Bust a Move is where you're on the honor system to use yarn and patterns that you owned prior to January 1st of this year. So anything, now you don't have to use both. You can use a yarn or a pattern. It does, or if you do both, then you get a double entry in the chatter thread. So I need to draw prizes for that fairly soon. I'll probably draw those at the end of the month on payday. Science sprinkles, I already mentioned. It can be something science related. It doesn't necessarily have to be something from that month's post. It can just be whether the yarn has a sciencey name or the kit has a sciencey name or the pattern is sciencey or it has a name, you know, that reminds you of something like the geologist sweater or whatever. That's on there. We have Creature Feature, Up, Up, and Away. I'm really struggling to try to get my dragon done. I've kind of lost my steam on him, but I am going to try to get him finished. Dragon Thursday is coming up. And then, let's see, is that everything? We've got Kit or Get Her Done, How Do You Eat an Elephant, String Along, Bust a Move, Science Sprinkles, Creature Feature. Yeah, I think that's everything for me. So I will mention a couple of other make-alongs my friends have going. Kirsty has a Stash Down make-along on Grenade Creations. I know that Vanessa has her stripey mal going on, so anything that's striped. Laura has a self-striping, so Vanessa's a Historian Knits, and then Laura's a Crocheting Hoovy and has a self-striping mal. Nikki and Heather from Knick Knack Knits have a couple of different ones going on. They have a Finish It or Get Her Done one going on. They have a sock one, and I think they still have their scrappy one going on. So go check out those podcasts. I know that Angela from Knitting on the Farm, I just saw her the other day on my Zoom room, and she said that she and Kaz from the We So and So podcast are doing a garment make along, so that's going to be my excuse to finally cast on that sweater I've been wanting to make. So go check out other people's. This is a good time. And I will also say this, there are a lot of pattern writers that are being very, very gracious right now by offering patterns for free. Or at greatly reduced prices. If you check Ravelry or if you sign up for their mailing list, you can find these free patterns. There are tons of them out there, and I'm very, very grateful to all the pattern writers out there. Probably none of y'all watch this, but just know that that is much, much appreciated. And also, too, if you're financially able to afford it, buy a pattern from them as well, just to support that, support them a little bit and say thank you, or consider buying yarn or fiber from the people who were getting ready for these big fiber festivals that they got canceled because of the social distancing we're needing to experience right now. So thank you everybody that's participated in my make-alongs, and we are going to now move on and talk about finished objects, right, Willie? Yeah, okay. Okay, so this week's finished objects, I'll show you my quasi-finished objects. I've just been sizing up these crochet blocks. I still need to put one more row on this, but what I've been doing is trying to take the background yarn or something close to the background yarn and just double crocheting around, and then the joining row is a row of single crochet. So this one actually needs one more round of single crochet on him to be the right size. But I've gotten 3 of them done. Oops, don't look at the back. They look terrible on the back. I've got 3 of them done. So the seaweed, which was the last block I finished, and the mermaid. And then this octopus, I'm going to finish him up. And then I've got a stack of other ones that need to be sized up. And they all need a joining round put on. I'm not going to use the join that she suggested because I think it will just make it too big. But I am going to join them with lime green, I decided. So I've got a few more of those that I need to get done. Now, my stitching... Willie, you want back up here? Okay. Okay. My finished objects this week are all stitching related, but I have several yarny whips. So if you're not into the stitching stuff, I hate that for you. Okay, so I have put together my pumpkin sign. Yay! This is a Jim Shore plastic canvas kit. So this is Kit or Get Her Done. Yay! What I did was I was going to put green felt on the back of it, but I never got it purchased, so I had some red fleece. I just wanted something that wouldn't ravel. So I cut out some red fleece, and I've glued that down on the back here, although I see I need to glue that down a little bit better. And then I put a hanger on it. I had a little bit of a twine here, and then I was like, how can I cover that up? I can use a button or something. And then I found this metal star that I just had in my box of my Miss Polly on AETN. She was an art teacher back when I was a little girl. And Miss Polly was a big influence on me because she said you should always have a box of happy trash. Happy trash was things that you could use for crafting. So like egg cartons and chenille stems and stuff like that, buttons and everything. So this was in my happy trash box. And so I finished my Jim Shore pumpkin. So that is all set. I've got to do a little bit of just gluing stuff down a little bit better on the back, but that is set to go in the fair, assuming we have the fair this year. Okay. Then I found a free cross stitch pattern on Penelope's Freebies, Penelope with an I, Freebies. And I need to do my show notes from last time, but I'll do them this time too. It was just a little bunny rabbit. And there's the website that you can see, Penelope's Freebies. Okay, there. Just a little freebie. And so I finished the little bunnies, my little chocolate bunnies sitting there. And this is on 28 count Monaco that was deep stashed from like a long time ago. And I think what I'm going to do, in the interest of using up stuff that I have this wicker wreath. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this like a little flat pillow. And I'm going to poise it inside the wreath, like so. And then I have some Easter ribbon that I'm going to put around this. It's got Easter eggs and bunnies on it and stuff, little thin satin ribbon. And I have some flowers. I have some silk flowers that would look pretty with it. So I'm just going to decorate this as a little Easter or Ostara decoration here with a little bunny. So I think that's what I'm going to do with that. Trying to use up, it's kind of I look at this time of, we are not on quarantine or shelter in place right now, but we are social distancing. And so I'm using this time as a way to be creative with what I already have. I have no excuse to buy anything, although I have, but I'm keeping Etsy in business single-handedly, I think. Maybe me and Jessica are, or me and Jessica and Tyra certainly are. But anyway, I'm trying to use what I have. I'm trying to look at these things that I have and finish, particularly my stitching work, in unusual ways. Okay, so my next FO here is, excuse me, is my Moral Compass by Bendy Stitchy Designs. And I was going to frame this. I had bought a frame. And I promptly broke the glass in it. Well, I was trying to put it in there. So I'm like, well, flitter. Except probably more colorful expression than that. What am I going to do? Well, in my closet of things that I've had forever and ever, along with the wicker wreath, I found these little wooden trays. Now, they were pretty light colored. So what I have done with this one is I have tea dyed it like you tea dye fabric. They were a lot lighter than this when I started. I made a batch of tea, very strong tea, in a big stock pot, and I dipped this in it. Now, this is not glued together. This is joined with, looks like staples probably, but you can't do this with something that's glued because it would soften the glue and it would come apart. But since this was stapled together, I was able to dip this several times until I got a color that I'm happy with. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little padded bottom for this out of my cross stitch. I've got some cardboard that I've saved. I've got some low loft batting, so I'm going to put it in the bottom. Then if I make a little padded bottom, the raw edges won't show, but I also have this ribbon that I saved off of something that I got. I don't remember, but I thought it was pretty. And I can use that to put around the edges if any of the raw edges were happen to show. That would hide the raw edges of this. So I think that that will be really kind of an unusual treatment. Then if I want to actually use it as a tray, I can cut a piece of plastic and put over the top of it. I have some heavy plastic tops from deli trays that I'm using for seed starting trays right now. And I could wash those, and they're flat, so I could cut a piece that would be the right size and put over the top of this. So I think that will be an unusual finish for that. Okay. So, yes, so that's Moral Compass by Bendy Stitchy Designs. She offered that as a charity pattern. It wasn't free, but the money went to the charity. And the blue is also 28 count Monaco, and I stitched over 2 over 2. Okay, then the last thing is my biggie. The last thing is my Let's Gallop. I have finished Let's Gallop by Ursula Michael for Imaginating Designs. There is Let's Gallop. Now, it needs a good press. I literally just pulled this out of the Q-Snap a couple of nights ago and then promptly wadded it up, it looks like, but it is done. So, that is a rainbow fade. There are 14 different colors in there representing the horses of the Rainbow Riders. Okay, so 14 different colors. And it's what I did it a little different than what was suggested. The back stitching on the pattern called for 1 thread. I used 2 to make it show up better since I was not using such dark colors. This is on 14 count Aida, and it's just 1 over 1, or well, over 1, I should say. It's not 1 over 1, but over 1. I use 2 threads, and it's a rainbow fade of DMC floss. And the little needle minder right there is a Charmed and Dangerous needle minder. It's a little pet rock with a little succulent on him. Isn't he sweet? Okay, so that is complete. And now I've got to get that finished so I can put that in the fair. Y'all knew that was coming, right? So, those are all my FOs for this week. So I'm going to move on now and take my needle minder off here and put it in a safe place and talk about works in progress. Okay, so for works in progress, they're just kind of all mixed together here. They're not in any particular order. The first thing I'll show is my Animal Almanac Stitch Along by Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. This month is Leap the Frog. I showed you a little bit of him last time. I had just barely gotten started on him, but I've got a little bit more done on him. I was focusing on getting that horse done instead. So this is how much I've got done on Leap the Frog. You can see the other 2 here. We got Rennie the Fox and Aurora the Penguin. So that's how much I've got done on Leap the Frog, and I've spilled something on it right there. So I've got to work a little bit more on that. I'll probably work on that this afternoon. Oh, and before I forget, for those of y'all who need some company, don't forget, I do have a Zoom room. The number is available on my Instagram, or you can contact me on Ravelry and I can send it to you. It is open pretty much all of the time, although you might log on and there's nobody there. Now, I will say this, if you log on between 8 a.m. and 12 a.m. Central Daylight Time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that's when I'm teaching online classes. So you probably don't want to necessarily log on then unless you want to learn some physics, but I will be there. But in the afternoons and evenings, usually there's somebody on there, and you can log on and have some company if you want some. My next work in progress is my Valentine's heart doily. I made a couple more hearts for it, so I'm slowly making progress on this. I need to prioritize. I was prioritizing the horse, but this is by Anne-Marie Wilkerson. It's a pay-for pattern on Ravelry, and I have gotten 3 hearts done, I think. Yeah, I've gotten 3 of the hearts done. So you make the hearts first. You make the hearts first. And I'm going to make mine all the same. I know on hers, she's got them kind of mixed up. You make the hearts first, and then you join them with the white. So you can kind of see there, I've got to make 3 more hearts and then join them. So I've only worked on that once, and probably in the last month. I sat down and made a couple more hearts. So anyway, yeah, so I need to prioritize that, I guess, a little bit. But so maybe it and my Frosted Pumpkin cross stitch tonight will be my priorities. Okay, also need to clean house, but what's fun about that? Okay, then my next work in progress is my Magnolia pillowcases. This is a Bacilla kit that I found at a thrift store. And I am making these for Miss Betsy. I have made some progress on my magnolia. You can see there I've got quite a bit more of the white filled in. So yeah, of course when I get that one done, I've got the other one to do, but that's okay. It's going fairly quickly. So I'll get those done as quickly as possible. And I bought the floss for that. It's DMC floss because the kit, when I found the kit in the thrift store, it was in a bag of different stuff. And luckily the pattern and the floss colors were in there, and then the pillowcases were in there, but the floss was long gone. So, okay. Then this is technically still a work in progress. This is a piece of latch hook that I made. I don't know. I was not in college yet, I don't think. Or maybe I was in college. My mother and I, you know, latch hook was a big fad in like the late 70s and 80s. And so we used to latch hook. And this was a pillow or whatever. So now it's pillow. I made a back for it with a pocket to put a pillow form in. I was looking at my pillow forms. I don't think I have a pre-made one that's this size, so I'm going to make my own. I have some lining fabric or white pocket material. Actually, that's what they use for the pockets in Levi's blue jeans, because my cousins used to work at the Levi plant, and they brought me a whole roll of that pocket fabric. So I'm going to make my own pillow form and put that in there, and then put that in there, and then I'm going to sew some decorative buttons on there to close it. So that's technically not finished yet because I haven't made the form for it, but that is a long abandoned project that is now getting close to being done. Yay. Okay. I don't think that I've worked very much on my Scottish one yet. In fact, I know I haven't put any more time in that, but that's my Scottish. It's from the Isle of Skye Crafts, and it's a bell pull. Okay. Or it's thistle stitches, excuse me. Thistle stitches, and it's a little bell pull there with Celtic knotwork. I haven't put any time on that at all. The needle minder is by Kim's Needle Minders. It's Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And then my bag is by So Much to Love there. Oh, and I forgot to mention my frosted pumpkin design and my bunny rabbits designs were both in bags by April 9 Designs, by Charlotte from April 9 Designs. Y'all know I love her stuff. So these are two of her bags as well. Okay. Oh, I'm terrible this week. This bag is by Tesla Knits. Yay. Sorry. Okay, now y'all know where those all came from. In my Home Row Fiberco bag is my Calaveras shawl. The Calaveras shawl was part of the Celtic Year Shawl Club by Willy Wonka Fiber Company. And I have put just a little bit more on it since the last time you saw it. It is a beaded shawl, one skein shawl. And the beads go up the central spine, and it is a pattern by Lori Law, and the yarn is Spiced Apple Nimaway Sock by Willy Wonka Fiber Company. So that's a beautiful red color there. So on the third skull lace section, second skull lace section, and then there's another garter section in there. So, yeah, haven't really worked a whole lot on that either. But I have worked on my Changes shawl. I picked my Changes shawl back up finally after letting it sit fallow for a very long time. It's in another April 9 Designs bag, alpaca's bag. This is one of her medium wedge bags. I am working on the Changes shawl by the Knitting Expat. And it is a very large, if you're not familiar with it, it's a very large shawl. But it's beautiful. And you start in the center, and then you work one end and then the other end. Or you can work them simultaneously, I guess. But I'm working all the way to finishing one end completely. And then I'll go back and pick up and do the other end. So I had let this sit pretty much, I think, since the beginning of the year. I had not touched it. But I picked it up the other day, and I put my stitches on hold that I needed to. I know that's not a very good way that's a fancy way of doing it, and I've got some cheap acrylic needles. I put them on that, and I tied a bunch of knots. That's not probably the right way to do that, but it works for me. Okay, and so now I am working on the last time y'all saw this, it was down here by the little figgy pudding. So I've gotten all the way through the stripy section, and I am on section C now, which is the wrap section. So you can kind of see that there. I don't know how that texture shows up. It's really beautiful when you look at it. It's very beautiful. And this yarn is Kimmery Knickknacks. The gray is called Steel. The gray color is called Steel. And then this is one of her, I bought 2 of her Rainbow Minis sets. There was a green in here also, but I only needed 10, so I pulled the green out. So there was actually 6 different colors in it to begin with. So anyway, so I am almost through the first repeat of the cluster section, and you repeat that section 3 times. So, or you do 3 repeats or 3 sets of it, whatever. So I've got 2 more to go after I finish this section. So yay, I'm back on track on that. So that is good. And that's what I've mostly been knitting on for the last probably 5 days. Just picking that up and getting back on it. But I also worked on my socks, if I can find where they're at. Where are my socks? I worked on my socks. I was going to show you. Oh, here they are. Oh, Wally, you going to help me find them? Wally's in here today, too, because, you know, he wants equal time. So this is also an April 9 Designs bag. This is her 2 at a time sock sack. So there's a divider in the center. So if you like to knit your socks 2 at a time, you can do that. And it is holding another Knitting Expat. This is the Vagary socks from her Wanderlust Sock Club from 2018. And I am knitting these out of, oh, there's my contacts. I probably need to take those out. I went and got my contacts. I'm knitting those out of String Theory Colorworks yarn. So String Theory Colorworks, and the color W49B. And I am almost ready to mark for my heel. I am going to try an afterthought heel, and thank you to those who suggested the Kirby Werby tutorial for that. I'm going to check that out. I've already watched it. I watched it a long time ago, but that's what I'm going to follow. So these are the Vagary socks. There's a texture on the front, and then there's my little Panda Bear Narwhal from Charmed and Dangerous, and the little pudding was also from Charmed and Dangerous, because she's sort of she's my gal when it comes to polymer clay charms. So I love this colorway. It's named after a supernova remnant, and that's right up my alley. So I'm almost ready to mark for the heel on these, and then I'll carry on and finish that off. This was a sock set, so the purple in the toe was a mini, was a coordinating mini, and then this is where the strapping started. And no, they don't match, and I don't care. So let's just be clear. Clearly, I'm not bothered by disorder. Thank goodness. Okay. Oh, my contacts fell on the floor. So before they become a dog toy, I'm going to grab them. Okay. Alrighty. So, let's see. What else have we got here? Oh, this is a long forgotten whip. I haven't showed it in a while, but I will show it. I have put some time in on it. This is a felt applique Christmas stocking that I bought, I don't know. I honestly don't remember when I bought this. It was probably early 2000s. I don't know. But it's Santa Claus in the kitchen. He's baking something, making cookies or something. And I actually have put some time in on this since you last saw it. So I think the last time I showed this, I had just done his body. So I've put his beard and stuff on. You can see his beard is stuffed. The little hat is stuffed there. And there's some embroidery. And then there's some embroidery with sequins on it. I've got the bowls there. So the next thing is the table. Looks like the table, and then the pudding and the holly berries. So I've got a little bit more to go on that. I think about halfway through the pieces, but the leaves are going to take a minute. So yeah. So, and then you put a backing on that. The backing is in yonder. I didn't bring it with me, but yeah. So got that done. Got that much done on that. So I'll get back to that too, because I think he's really cute. I think that's all my whips. I mean, I have one here on the sewing machine that I could show up and show a bit. This is a baby quilt, or yeah, it was just a lap quilt that I started years ago. And the elephants were zigzag stitch. They didn't look very good, so I'm going back around them now that I have a nicer sewing machine with satin stitch. This pattern was from my little neighbor lady, Miss Esther May, who lived over the road from me for all my life. And she shared with me a lot of her patterns, except the elephants didn't have wings. And I have told the story before about my dad's expression when we would play cards about if an elephant had wings, it would be a mighty big bird. When people started going, well, if you had done this, I could have done this. And if you had done this, I could have done this. And as he said, if an elephant had wings, it could fly. It'd be a mighty big bird. So I put wings on all my elephants. These are all fabrics that I had from different projects that my mom and I made when I was younger. Either clothes or sort of crafting projects or whatever. So, yeah, so these are leftover scraps of fabric, and I've just set them together here in sort of a random way. I'm going to finish this little quilt. I'm going to satin stitch over their tails. I just drew them on with fabric marker. I'm going to satin stitch over their tails and eyes to make them look a little nicer. And then I'm going to tie it, I think, okay, as a little lap quilt. So we'll see. So that's on my sewing machine right now because I've been in the mood to sew lately. So yay for me. So that's all my works in progress. So now we'll talk just a little bit about future crafting. Okay, so for future crafting, you've seen a couple of these, or I've talked about a couple of these, but starting on them now is imminent. Now that I've finished my moral compass and my horse and my bunnies, I want to start a new stitchery project, although I want to finish my monthly block first for this animal almanac. But I do have all the materials now to start my space sampler. Okay, this is a pattern by Jerry Ambrose, and this is, you purchased the digital download from her off of Etsy. So this is the space sampler. I have all the materials that I bought from my local needlework shop, and I'm going to start that. That'll be the next stitching project that I start. As far as sewing goes, my thoughts are turning to the fair. And I have this cute little advent calendar. It is a little fabric panel with, you've got the tree there, and then you've got the little individual pockets that you sew onto the tree as an advent calendar. So I would probably put this on batting like a quilt, put fabric on the back of it, sew down the, do some quilting on the panel, and then put the pockets on. Okay, and you tuck little presents, and I actually have, looks like 3 of those, because I bought this from when I went to Marshall Dry Goods on my birthday. So it's got, let's see. Oh, it shows you how to do a box pleat between each pocket on the strips. Oh yeah, so you don't actually cut these out individually, you do box pleats. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so that's something I want to try to work on a little bit. Then, as I mentioned, Angela from Knitting on the Farm and Kaz from the We Sew and Sew are having a garment make-along. So I have swatched for my flax out of, this is Wool of the Andes Mineral Heather. And I'll take one out of the package so you can get a better sense of the color. There is kind of a blue-gray, kind of a dusty blue color. It's a sort of a heathered yarn. That's what I want to make my flax out of. So I'm going to go ahead and cast that on pretty soon because they are having that garment make along. I think it runs till June 1st. Then my kid addiction got me, and I was looking for something completely unrelated on Amazon one day, and I found this another felt stocking applique kit. But it had dogs and cats on it, so I thought that was appropriate. So I got that. I've had that for a little bit, so I will work on that when I finish the other one. And I'm pretty close to being done on it, so maybe I'll get this one done too. So those are my future crafting projects. We're not going to dilly-dally around. I'm going to talk just a little bit about acquisitions because, you know, I'm going to spread them out a little bit because if we're on social distancing, there's not going to be much. Well, I take that back. As long as we've got online shopping, we've got access to craft supplies, don't we? I'm going to have to delete the Etsy app off my phone is what's going to have to happen, I think. Anyway, we're going to move on and talk about acquisitions. Okay, so I've been very good about not buying yarn since the first of the year because I need to use up what I have. However, I have made up for that in buying needlework and sewing stuff. So the first thing I'll do is I'll show you the 3 patterns that I ordered from the Nashville market from my local needlework shop, Stitcher's Garden. They have a great online presence, and I'm going to link all these down below. And yes, I am going to catch up on my show notes again. I apologize for not being very good about that. But anyway, so this is the first one. This is Autumn Lane Designs. This is Wicked Witchcraft. I've still got them in the plastic. I don't want to take them out. Okay, and then this is Praiseworthy Stitches Blue Moon Manor, because I love the Halloween. And then, because I love butterflies, Little Dove Designs Kaleidoscope of Butterflies, and it actually has the names of all of them on there, so I thought that was pretty cool. I think those are all beautiful. Now, I don't have any of the supplies bought for those yet. I want to finish stitching the things that I bought the supplies for before I do those. Now, I did buy some other stuff, but y'all are just going to have to wait to see that because, you know, we got to spread these things out because, you know, social distancing. Anyway, but I was looking for some fabric that I saw on Instagram because I follow the hashtag quilting fabric, and that's probably not smart, but I do. And I was looking for some fabric and I found it, but I found something I liked just as much. I found this little mini quilt. It's called Bramble Mini. And it is, you get the large panel, and then you can buy a charm pack in the border fabric. So this is the large panel, and you can choose which critter you want on there, and then you have the other ones left over because I bought the whole panel. So this is just one segment of the panel. Then this is, what is this? Oh, that's not it. That's a different one. Then this is the charm pack that goes with it. So a charm pack is a fancy way to get you to buy fabric that is a bunch of, looks like 10 by 10 squares of different fabrics. So I don't want to take these all out, but there's different prints in here and different solids that coordinate with this. So I'll be able to make a mini quilt, or there might be enough in here that I could actually use more than one of these panels. I'll have to just kind of see what I've got available. Okay, now the fabric that I went to buy that caught my eye was this one. And it was in a different colorway, but I decided I liked this one better. It's called I Love You to the Moon. And I bought the large panel set of it. So I'm a sucker, right? Sucker. So it has a sewing machine with little birds and creatures on it. It has the unicorn going to the moon on it. And then the owl, the wise owl. And then a bear with a moon bear. And then it also has the little sets of labels and stuff that you can cut out to put on quilts and things. So I foresee this being some sort of mini quilt as well, or wall quilt. And I bought the coordinating fabric, just a piece of the coordinating all over print fabric, because I thought it was really beautiful. So you've got all the creatures that you just saw there on this coordinating fabric. Those are I Love You to the Moon. And I think that is by, this is Sarah Watts, I Love You to the Moon, Ruby Star Society fabric. So that's what I really went after. The Bramble, I believe, is by Gingiber by Moda. So you can see the label there. Whew, didn't need that. So those were my acquisitions. So I just thought I would share those with y'all real quick. I've got some new Charmed and Dangerous charms here somewhere, but Lord, I hope the house brownies haven't taken them already. They were just right here. But anyway, so now we're going to move on and talk about science. Okay, so let's move my camera back around here. So the physics part of my life has been upended, pretty much. I met with my students on Wednesday of the last time we recorded. I think I had been talking a little bit about that, and I recorded on Thursday and posted it, and Thursday afternoon got a message that said we are going online for the rest of the semester. Now, for me, it's not a huge big deal because I have taught online before. We are very fortunate in my university to have an excellent Center for Teaching Excellence, which I have talked about before, which is overseen by my friend Amy. And they are very helpful at all sorts of educational innovation, and they have a distance learning team that has been crucial to making this happen for people at the university. The problem being that a lot of the professors have never taught online. They are not set up to put their classes online at all, and so it was a big uptick. So what they did actually was they closed us Friday through Monday to give us time to transition to online. They had already kind of warned us that this might happen because a university in South Central Arkansas had to close because they had exposure cases there from some of their students in their respiratory care program. So what ended up happening is they closed us down to all online, and so I didn't get to see my students again before that happened, and that kind of bothered me a little bit. But luckily, with technology, with Google Meet or Zoom or whatever, we're able to see each other, which I find comforting. It's been an interesting transition. I've got some exams I need to grade, which were not meant to be online exams that they had to scan and upload. Fortunately, most of my students seem to have good online connectivity, so that's not been a problem. They have left our campus open. This week is our spring break, so they don't want anybody on campus, but they have left our campus open because we have some students that don't have anywhere to go or couldn't leave right now. And so that way they have a place to be, which is, I think, good. And that also gives our hourly workers a wage. So the people who work in the cafeteria, the offices are all open. They don't have any in-person stuff going on. It's all phone directed, but, so far, so good. But I've been working on putting all my stuff online. I think I mostly got the kinks worked out now. I've got to work some problems out on paper and just post those because they're very hard. It's very hard for me to use a whiteboard in my kitchen with the lighting situation that's in there. So that didn't work out. I thought that's what I would do, but that didn't work out. So, but I mean, we've managed. We have managed so far, and that's the important thing. It bothers me a little bit simply because I am very interactive with my students, but so far it's been okay. We have canceled all of the activities. Super Science Saturday will not happen. Now, what we are going to do with Super Science Saturday is we're going to make a workbook and give the kids. I'd planned to do that anyway, but now that will be the primary thing. We'll do a workbook, and we'll maybe do some videos of people doing the demonstrations or the experiments where they can see them. But we'll do it that way, and then that'll be what we have to do because we don't have on-campus access. They don't want any large groups gathering on campus. Science fair is going to be virtual. They're going to record their presentations and put them up for us to watch. It'll be asynchronous, which means we'll just go watch whenever we can after they post it, as opposed to synchronous, which means we meet live online. Our undergraduate research symposium is going to probably be that way, and Arkansas Space Grant Consortium will probably also be that way. And the MERAC meeting, which is the Mid-America Regional Astrophysics Conference, has been postponed to some date in the future. which, it is what it is, and we have to do what we've got to do to survive, this time in our history. It is disappointing for our students that were seniors. There's not going to be a senior breakfast. There's not going to be graduation, but you have to, weigh the safety of people out with that. So it'll be an interesting thing to look back on. I'm sure 5-10 years from now, we'll look back on this time and go, that was an interesting period of time. The one thing that I have been kind of disappointed in is the way people have acted. There's a lot of ignorance going around. There's a lot of, I don't buy into conspiracy theories at all. And I also don't like junk science and people saying, well, why can't we do this? And why can't we do that? Also, I've been very disappointed by the behavior of human beings toward one another. In some cases, it's been great. In some cases, with the hoarding and the fighting and everything. And this is not even, this is not the zombie apocalypse. This is a virus, which can be dangerous for some. It's very fast moving and we don't fully understand it. But when the bigger potatoes come, as Toby likes to say, I am very disappointed in how people have been acting toward the people who have to be on the front lines of this. The mail people, the postal carriers, the grocery workers, the people that have to go to work, people in healthcare, people in public service of some kind that's considered a critical role. I've been really dejected on how people have been acting. I bought my groceries yesterday I did the online pickup thing from Walmart. I mean, I don't, it's not ideal, but it is what it is. And it keeps me from having to engage with people up close. And I was the only one that was there to pick them up because it's a small town. And the little girl comes out and she looks exhausted. And I said, are you okay? And she said, no, I'm not having a very good day. And I could tell that she'd been crying. She had been pushed down. She'd been yelled at. She'd been shoved by grown-up people acting a fool over this. And I cannot for the life of me understand why people think that they need to hoard items like toilet paper and bottled water. Although I think I have an idea on the toilet paper now. And here's what it is. Coronavirus is a broad category of viruses like influenza. There's a lot of different kinds. Coronavirus actually contains the common cold, is a coronavirus. It is a broad category that describes the shape of the virus. It's got little pokey out things. It looks like a crown. Okay, so a corona. They exist in mammals and in birds, and there's different variations in different animals. They can be, in us, they're primarily rhinoviruses, meaning they're respiratory. But it includes the common cold. It includes, mild respiratory infections, but it also includes things like SARS and MERS and COVID-19. But it's a broad category. The viruses that generally are in animals, there's a broad range of viruses that can exist in animals and domestic animals, such as there's an avian version. There is a version that exists in pigs, in cattle, in cats, in dogs, in turkeys, in ferrets, in rabbits. And people are posting things like, well, my dog has been vaccinated against the coronavirus. Or people are literally getting rid of their pets because they can have the coronavirus. You cannot get the coronavirus from your pet. You can't do it. Okay? It's not happening. The varieties that exist in canines and felines are not zoonotic, which means you can't get them. The vaccine that you give a puppy that says, oh, it's vaccinated against the coronavirus, that's for canine coronavirus. That's not for human coronavirus. Okay? It's not. It's not going to do you any good. So this idea of why can't scientists just give us that dog vaccine is ill-informed. I'll just say that, because I said a lot of other things about it earlier today in my mind, but it's ill-informed. You can't do that because it's not the same virus. Coronavirus is a big umbrella under which COVID-19 is there. But COVID-19 and the canine coronavirus are not the same thing. Now, if you read about the canine coronavirus, and this is where I think people are going with this, the canine coronavirus is intestinal. And it has an incubation period of 1 to 3 days. It's highly contagious and infectious, and it's spread through feces. And the symptoms include diarrhea and vomiting and weight loss. I'm wondering, just hear me out. This is my conspiracy theory. I don't have any little music going, do conspiracy corner, pew, pew, pew. Did people read that on the internet and think, oh my gosh, I'm going to get diarrhea and vomiting, therefore I need all the toilet paper in existence? That's my theory. The thing with the bottled water, I guess they think the water's going off. I don't know. I don't know where that's coming from, y'all. I don't know. But even if you're going to hoard things, you don't fight over them. Don't fight over them. And surely do not push down a child. This little girl couldn't have been over her early 20s. She's making little to nothing working in retail, bringing groceries to people to keep us going during this period of time where people are acting silly and being awful, keeping us going so that we can have Diet Coke and veggie straws and frozen pizza and donuts and whatever our heart desires for groceries. She is on the front lines of this. I promise you, she's only making minimum wage probably, and she's being treated like this. Y'all don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just don't be that. Don't be that person. Don't be that person. Trey Crowder, the liberal redneck, posted a great video about this. It is not for everybody, I'm telling you, because it is full of swear words, and he is a liberal redneck, so some of y'all may not like it. But boy, he hit it on the head about the crazed Karens cutting an entitled swath or a swath of entitlement through the grocery aisles, because that's kind of what's happening, and I am ashamed of that, y'all. I'm ashamed of that. Anyway, so, coronavirus is a broad category. Please do not think that you can get it from your dogs and then take your dogs to the shelter. You can get it from your cat. Please don't do that. And we also don't be going and buying puppy vaccines and giving them to yourself under no circumstances. Okay, so let's talk about happier things. Okay, so happier things. I love narwhals, and y'all know this. And the other day on the Zoom chat, which, again, if any of y'all are lonesome and want some crafting company, you are welcome to come get on Zoom with us. I think it was me, Jessica, Jocelyn, Nancy. I can't remember who else was on there, but I know those were the primary people behind this. We were talking about narwhals. And Nancy says, I wonder if unicorns turned into narwhals. And she was kind of halfway joking, but, and I'm like, ooh. Well, funny you should say that, because if you read about the mythology surrounding narwhals. Now, narwhals are primarily in cold waters and Arctic waters, and the males have what we would call the horn, but really it's a tooth. It has nervous tissue in it. It's a tooth. And funnily enough, people think that some of the mythology of unicorns comes from mariners seeing male narwhals. So narwhals kind of did descend from unicorns in that way. But narwhals are sometimes called unicorns of the sea. There's about 80,000 narwhals known, roughly, and they can weigh up to 4,200 pounds, and they can be up to 17 feet long. The male narwhal is the one with the extension, which we call a horn, but again, it's really a tooth. And they primarily are in the cold waters, okay? They primarily live in Arctic waters off of Canada, Greenland, Norway, and Russia. And they winter for up to 5 months, usually in the Baffin Bay, Davis Straits area, okay? Some of the threats they face are environmentally related, oil and gas development, climate change, things of that nature. Now, the female narwhals don't have the tooth extension, but they do eat primarily seafood, cod, squid, and shrimp. And they hunt around the edge of ice floes and in the ice-free summer waters. And they do come in pods. They can dive up to a mile deep, which is kind of cool. They change color as they age. The juveniles are blue-black. The babies are blue-gray, blue-black. And then the adults are the mottled color. But the old adults are all white. Unicorn of the sea. So there's a lot of cool links about narwhals that I'll put in there, but we're gonna have a little fun contest. Tyra's the other person that was in on this fun little chat we were having. Tyra offered up a skein of beautiful rainbow colored yarn that I'll post a picture of here, and she said, let's have a contest. I'm like, okay. So I'm going to open a thread, and if you can spin the best yarn about how unicorns turned into narwhals, and we're going to have a committee that will select the winner. I'm not going to say who the committee is because I don't want you to unduly influence them, but there's going to be a committee selection of the best story, and probably it'll be random because they're all going to be good, right? So you'll win the skein of yarn. Yay! Okay, so yay, some fun science sprinkles. Love in the time of COVID-19. Okay, so we're going to go on now and talk about farm life. Okay, so farm life has also been kind of upended by these activities. Now, before all this happened, Flame and I went back to our first dressage show. You saw the video that I posted, and we did better than I expected. She was very nervous, but she got over it. Honestly, as we were talking the other day about our animals, I think the animals can sense sort of the anxiety in the air just right now, these uncertain times. And so they are feeding off that. I think the longer this persists, the calmer things will get because we'll fall into our new routine. So, I think that they'll calm down a little bit. But farm life has been interesting because I've had more time at home, obviously. We have canceled paying lessons at the barn for the foreseeable future until this kind of blows over, but we are still allowed to go ride our horses. I am the Google Calendar master where you sign up for a time slot. We always have to have a responsible adult with us. So Marianne and I are each other's responsible adult because we can stay far enough away from each other that we don't infect each other. And our horses don't like each other, so we can't be beside each other anyway. So that works out great. Because you know what? Farming still has to go on. Farming still has to happen. Animals still have to be fed. Food still has to be bought. I can buy 2 weeks worth of food at a time, but I don't like to do that because I don't really have a good place to store it. And if it gets wet, it can be moldy, and that's not good. So kind of what's going on here. I'm preparing for gardening. I've got a seed started. I've got chicks now. I've got some baby chicks in there. I'll put a little video clip into them. I've got some seeds started. I've got seeds ready. It is rainy and cold right now outside, but it's supposed to clear off this afternoon. So I'm going to start building some raised beds and filling them with compost. I did do some work on my fruit trees. I've got all these bagworm little bag cocoons on my quince trees, and they eat up my quince every year. So I pulled all those off and got rid of them. Then I put some new footing down for my birds because it's been so wet. I got some straw and put down in their cages so they didn't have to stand in mud. It looks like I let the extra roosters go because I just felt so sorry for them in that little bitty pen because nobody wanted them. So they're just wandering around the yard right now. And it looks like some of them had a disagreement because one of them got beat up pretty bad. So I've got a rooster in the infirmary right now, but he seems to be doing better. I've got turkey still sitting on eggs. So we'll see how that goes. My chickens are producing lots of eggs right now. So I've got plenty of eggs. I did plant some new blackberry bushes. I got 6, Washita thornless blackberries from Starks Brothers. And then also I have been digging elderberry baby plants up out of the ditch out here in front of my house. There's one of the ditches, there's just a ton of them in there. And I think it's because the birds would eat the berries and sit in the trees. And then when they would go to the bathroom, it would release the seeds down into the ditch. So I've been digging those up and giving those away to people that want them. I basically have, I just tell people, okay, there's a bunch of them on the back, on the tailgate of my truck. Come help yourself. So I've given away about 10 so far. And I've got a few more. There's got somebody that's supposed to be bringing me some goat milk today in exchange for some elderberry plants. So that's been, the community aspect of this has been really important. And so bartering and working with people to try to make sure they have what they need. That's the farming way. You have to, when you have a farm, you're not an island. You have to help one another, and that's been really important. So working on the garden, working on the fruit trees, taking care of the animals, making sure they have plenty to eat and everything like that. So I guess in the house, kind of the things that I've been doing is I've been trying to just make the best use of what I have, because I don't want to just randomly go out to the store. Now, yes, I can order things in, but like a lot of the places are prioritizing delivery of household necessities and medical equipment, and as they should, so I just can't randomly on a whim buy things. So I'm trying to use what I have and not waste. And that's probably a good practice, right? Anyway, that we should be utilizing. So for example, I needed seed starting trays. Well, I had some deli trays. I reused those. I needed to dye that piece of wood. So I tried, let's try tea dye. I had some stain and it had dried up because I was originally going to stain it and it had dried up. And I thought, well, what can I use? What can I use? And I thought, oh, tea dye. Coffee dye would work too, but I don't drink coffee. Then, things like if you make, like I have kombucha. So I fed my kombucha and I took some oranges that I knew I wouldn't be able to eat all of. So I quartered the oranges and took the slices without the peels. I took the peels off of them and put those in the bottles. And then I poured kombucha over them, and that will flavor the kombucha. I took the peels and grated them and have dried those in the oven to use for soap making, because they make a great exfoliant and make your soap smell really good. And your house smells really good while you're drying them. The spring ephemeral wildflowers and foraging is going on right now. So I've been out picking dead nettle and henbit and chickweed and cleavers, and been drying those. I'm also going to take the chickweed, which is a great salad. I'm going to take the chickweed and blanch it and put some of it in a freezer bag. And there's my goat milk. Okay, so I had 2 friends come by to pick up elderberries. Lily brought me some goat milk. She has milk goats. And then my friend Amy is a hospice nurse, and we were chatting. She has a lady who is 102 years old that is one of her clients. She's a traveling nurse. And she said, she has difficulty hearing and difficulty seeing, but that she used to teach Latin. And she has a big magnifying glass that she puts a puzzle book under and does cryptograms. And I said, wait just a minute. My mother loved crosswords and logic problems and cryptograms and cryptoquotes and all that stuff. And she had all these Reader's Digest mind puzzler books, and I could never bring myself to get rid of them. And I went and got them and gave them to Amy. I said, give those to that lady. That's why I've held on to those books all this time. Y'all, community is what's going to save us during this time. I tell you, community is so important, and building community is so important. Even if it's from a distance, even if we can't hug each other, we can still care about each other and take care of each other. But while Amy and I were standing out there talking, we were talking about the wildflowers that are blooming. So I just picked an example of henbit and dead nettle. This is henbit. It has the rounder leaf with the big, deep, jagged edges. And then this is dead nettle, which has the more triangular leaf. So people often confuse the two. Actually, they call everything henbit, I think. So this is henbit and this is dead nettle. So I picked those out there to show them to Amy from a socially distancing distance. But anyway, so I forgot what all we were talking about, but basically we were talking about community, I think. I've just been doing things in the house, like using what I've got. I took some orange slices and put in some kombucha. I used the tea to tea dye, and then I saved the tea water. I saved the full strength tea and put it in a couple of jars, and I'm going to tea dye some old doilies that I have. They're a little bit stained up. I'm going to tea dye those. But you can also take the tea bags and make a weak tea, and that's great for your houseplants. So I've been using that to water my houseplants and water my seedlings, and then take the tea bags and put them out around your roses. They have a lot of good nutrients in them for your roses. So don't remember what else I was going to say, but that's kind of where we're at. The animals are all, we're making it, you know, we're doing the best we can here, just trying to keep busy. I've got some wild violets that I have been steeping, and I'm going to make jelly out of those. I made some vegetable broth and canned that out of a bag full of vegetable scraps that I had. Just trying to, you know, keep caught up. I guess the big news is I fixed my dryer. The dryer, I was pretty sure the element was bad. I've been thinking about buying a new washer and dryer, and the washer has started working again. Knock on wood that it keeps working and doesn't have any more problems with that motor. It's the detergent delivery motor, and I don't even use that kind of detergent, so... But whatever, it seems to be working right now, knock on wood, it keeps it up. But I thought, okay, this element, how hard can it be to replace that? So you find a video on YouTube. There's a lot of videos out there. Took the dryer, opened up the dryer, cleaned it out really good because there was a lot of dog hair and lint and everything inside there, which it probably needed that anyway. Cleaned it out really good. Cleaned the lint trap out, pulled the element out. Yes, the element was burned through. Just like an old incandescent light bulb, the element will burn through. The element burned through on the dryer. I ordered a new one for $20. It got here in 2 days. Works great. So that was an $800 savings. Now, granted, I'm going to have to replace it eventually, but I don't have to replace it right now, and that's good because I don't really want to go to Lowe's because we know how much fun I had with them, and so don't really want to go to Lowe's right now. So, yeah, so I fixed my dryer. Yay. So, my next big project is I need to clean out the carburetor on my push weed eater so I can start weed eating, but I'm also going to pick some dead nettle. I've been drying dead nettle with my orange peels. I've been drying dead nettle and cleavers and comfrey leaves and dock leaves. And I'm going to use all of those in some creams and some balms. I'm going to infuse them in oil. You have to dry them first before they put them in the oil or they'll get moldy and you don't want that. So I just dry them in a low oven, like 170 degrees Fahrenheit oven. But you can also eat these guys. These are edible wild plants. You can eat these in the chickweed. So I'm actually going to go pick some of these and blanch them and put them in freezer bags. And then I'll have fresh greens this winter when I wish I had some fresh greens. So waste not, want not, right? But that's something that I've been endeavoring to do, is just to make sure that I use what I have. You know, not that I'm a big shopper necessarily anyway, but I have so much stuff, whether it be craft supplies or, you know, available things outside or reusing materials that I have, you know, scrapped out from a project. It's time to use that stuff, you know, and so, yeah. Anyway, so I guess that's where I'll leave it. Sorry about the interruption there. And so we're going to move on to a few final thoughts. One thing I forgot to mention in all the excitement is we had some big tornadoes, or almost big tornadoes. The first day of spring, which was early this year because of leap year, it was on the 19th. And again, spring is when the sun crosses the celestial equator. That's how we decide when the first day of spring is. Had tornado warnings, 3 back to back. And normally I don't get too fussed, but these were awfully close. And so I ended up actually rounding everybody up and putting all the little dogs and all the old dogs in the bathroom, in the interior bathroom. And then I had all the cats in a cage or carriers in the hallway covered with a big heavy blanket. And then I had some of the other dogs in the hallway with me, and we had big blankets. Luckily it didn't come to fruition, but it was pretty hairy there for about 30 minutes because they were the way the storms were lined up, they were just in training is what it's called, when they're just going across kind of the same spot. And that happened 3 times. We had 3 tornado warnings called that were pretty too close for comfort. Luckily, only one of them spawned a tornado. for us. Of course, there was there was some damage up to the northeast of us, but it was a pretty wild night. So anyway, yeah, gotta love living in Tornado Alley in the springtime. Happy Ostara, right? Okay, so of course there's one big thing that's weighing on everybody's minds right now, and I was talking with my friend Amy about, the concerns that we had had, and my main concern is, making sure that I don't infect, if I have been exposed, infect a vulnerable population, but also making sure that people are okay. That's been my number one thing, and that's part of the reason why I decided to dig all those elderberry bushes out of the ditch and give those away. My love language, I guess, is checking on you. You okay? How are you doing? Do you need anything? Can I be of help? Oh, I had something fall over. Big surprise in this room. So, that's what I do. And we build community, and community strengthens us all, and that's how we're going to survive. So I found a piece that my friend Michael, who lives up in Maine, he and his husband adopted a dog from me named Pogo some years ago, and we have become friends. And I wanted to share this with you because I think it is a very important piece. It's author unknown, but it's called Prayer for a Pandemic. May we who are merely inconvenienced remember those whose lives are at stake. May we who have no risk factors remember those who are most vulnerable. May we who have the luxury of working from home respect and support those who must choose between preserving their health or paying their rent. May we who have flexibility to care for our children when the schools close remember those who have no options. May we who have to cancel our trips remember those who have no places to go. May we who are losing on our investments remember those who have no money to invest. May we who settle in for a quarantine at home remember those who have no home. During this time, when we cannot physically wrap our arms around each other, let us each find ways to be the loving embrace of humanity to our neighbors. Be aware, be accepting, be supportive, and be kind. So, community is how we're going to make it, y'all. That's our love language, right? Supporting our communities and living in community as best as we can. So, till I see y'all again, I hope that you're taking care of yourself. I hope that you're feeling supported. And I hope that you are doing okay. And until I see y'all again, y'all be good to each other, even more than ever. Take care of each other more than ever, right, Willie? And peace out, y'all. Bye. Did you tell him bye, Willie? Did you tell him bye? Bye.